Welcome. My name is Greg Whitsitt.
And I'm Amy.
And we're with Global Mission Center for East Asian Religions. And this is our workshop titled Winning Hearts, Making Disciples in East Asia. And we've enjoyed looking at different topics. And today's topic is why the gospel isn't good news.
Right, we're beginning a section talking about the East Asian challenge to mission. And today we will be focusing on why the gospel isn't good news to Buddhist people in East Asia. So to begin with, I have a question for you. If you could take the gospel, the whole entirety of this book, and kind of boil it down to just one text, one key verse, what verse would you pick?
John 3:16.
John 3:16. Thank you, Dan. Excellent. John 3:16. Let's say that together. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. You know, Greg, this is one of the best texts probably that can summarize the gospel
Indeed.
in a nutshell.
That's why we love it.
That's right. But I think that it has some challenges for Buddhists. I think we should explain this and explore this a little bit.
Okay, let's take a look.
So the verse starts off, for God.
What does that sound like to a Buddhist? Well, gods are ancestors. They're like you and me. And they have good karma, and they are in the heavens. One of several, or many heavens, actually. But eventually they're going to have to be reborn, and likely they'll be reborn as a human being.
Okay? And then it goes on that he loved the world.
That's right. So for Buddhists, they would say love is desire or clinging. They use the word tanha. And actually, that's the source of suffering. So that's kind of difficult.
And then he gave his only Son.
So why did God give his Son? Well, the story goes that he came to this earth to die for our sins, right? He was crucified. Well, that's a very violent death, isn't it? And that must indicate that there was some bad karma to have to suffer like this and die in this manner. So obviously there was something there. And this bad karma will also move into the new life, potentially, and cause future suffering.
Wow. I think we're having issues.
Yes.
That whosoever believes in him.
Well, it's true. Many Buddhists do believe in different gods and that they can help. But ultimately, I must depend on myself, is what is believed. I'm responsible for my own karma. And I can't depend on the gods to help me with that, even though they may help me with many things.
And those who believe in him won't perish, but have everlasting life.
Now, this is a tricky one. It sounds like good news, except Buddhist teaching says that life is a cycle. So everlasting life would be an everlasting cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And that's everlasting suffering in a sense, isn't it? Because life is suffering. So they believe that only nirvana spells the end of that suffering. So when they hear John 3:16, the response, though it sounds good to us as we share it with them, their response is, that's confusing. How could that be good news? It may be news, but not necessarily good news. So what do? How do we move forward? Well, let's take a look at this issue. And we'd like to illustrate it with a parable or an analogy. Sometimes pictures are worth 1,000 words, they say, right? So we have this analogy of sports.
How many of you like sports? Oh, everybody likes sports. It's fun, you get exercise, right? Get out and play with friends. How many of you like to play football, soccer? Quite a number. It's exciting, isn't it? You get to play with a team, you're running with the ball, lots and lots of fun. But we also have golf. How many of you play golf?
I don't play, no. I played once.
Did you?
Yeah.
What happened?
One time. Well, the first 9 holes I did pretty well. I thought for a beginner I was doing great. But the second 9 holes, halfway through, I was digging holes in the grass everywhere, and the caddy that I had to hire at the golf course in Thailand was getting very upset with me because I was ruining the lawn. So after that, I realized golf is not easy, and I don't think I'll play again.
It takes practice. I think it takes practice. Well, we're going to look at these a little bit because this actually illustrates the differences between Christianity and Buddhism, believe it or not. So we're going to start off with football. With football, how many teams do you have? 2 teams playing against each other, and the highest score wins, right? Mm-hmm. Whoever kicks the ball in the most times wins the game, period.
And 1 ball.
1 ball, that's right. You need a team. Can you play another team if you're just by yourself? No, because you need to have a goalie, you need to have, I don't know what they're all called, but you need to have different positions, and you need to be scattered across a certain area so you can strategically play, right? You work as a team, you build together as a team, work as a team. How long do you play? 90 minutes. And if you have 8 points and the other team has 9 points at the end of 90 minutes, tough luck. You lost the game, right? There's maybe some extra time given if there's a tie, but typically a normal game would run for 90 minutes. Players need to have certain skills, right? And each of the different players needs a different set of skills. So a goalie needs different skills than somebody out on the field. And some of the skills would include speed. You need to be able to run fast. You need to be able to outpace the other team. You need to have endurance. This is why I don't play. You have to have endurance to be able to run back and forth for 90 minutes, and actually longer than 90 minutes because you get timeouts and all kinds of things happen. So you need to have a good bit of endurance to be able to play. Being able to dribble the ball, kick the ball around, pass it. You need to be able to kick it properly. You need to be able to head it maybe. There's so many different skills that you need to be able to play. But most importantly is you have to know how to play as a team. Have you ever seen a team play where there's one player who thinks he's the player, right? He knows before the end of the game that he's the MVP, right? It doesn't work. You have to be able to work as a team, and it's only when you work with strong teamwork that you can actually win the game. There's helpers. Yeah, you play as a team, but there's helpers that are off the field. They're not part of your team who are helping you. You have your coach who's giving you guidance. Maybe the coach is looking at the plays that the other team is known for, what they're good at, and he's preparing you so that you can play against them and kind of work through the holes that they have. You have your goalie who's working with you, who's part of the team, your other teammates. So there's people, and even to a certain degree, the audience, the people in this stadium, they're rooting for you. You're going to play differently if you have everybody shouting and cheering for you than if they're booing, right? So you have all these helpers on the outside who are encouraging you. And there's an opposing team. You can't play a game if there's no other team to play. It's no fun. The rules don't work that way. You have to have 2 teams.
Even if you only have 6 players, they'll break into 2 groups of 3 so you can play the game. It's impossible to play without opposition. But now let's take a look at golf. If you play with the same rules in golf that you play in football, would it work? Of course not. Because in golf, you don't have 2 goals, you have 18 holes, right? And you have 1 ball, but everyone plays with their own ball. You don't touch the other person's ball. If you do, well, you won't keep friends for very long. Or you'll be disqualified if it's a professional game. But also, there's no teams. You don't see T-shirts and hats with a golf team because there is no team. It may be the name of the player that you like if you follow golf, but even that's not real popular. It's not a team sport. And instead of the highest score winning, it's actually the lowest score, right? You try to hit that ball as few times as possible. And actually the score is kept by how many times you hit the ball, not how many times you get in the hole, because you're only supposed to do it once per hole and everybody gets the same score. Also, the system is very different. Instead of defeating the other team, you're really just trying to do your best. That's how you win. is do your best, which is hopefully better than everyone else's best. Time frame? Well, like I said, if you're like me, you don't play very well, you can play as long as you want. So if you think about the cost of the sport, and you think how badly you might be able to play, then you could say that yes, it's expensive to get into the golf course, but you can play all day long. And if they let you, all night if you're not so good. But there is no limit in time. Also with golf, the skills that you need are really self-control, your form, how you swing. It's a mind game. You need to know how to interpret the weather conditions, the grass, the slopes, and everything has to be thought through. It's a very mental game. All sports are, but especially golf, the way you do that. Can anybody else hit your ball for you? Anybody else swing the golf club? No. The caddy can give you a little advice, but that's it. You're on your own. And then last, what about the opposition? It's true that when you play against friends, that's kind of an opposition, but you can go out all by yourself on a Sunday morning and play golf and have a competitive game because you're playing against yourself. The only opposition you have is actually not intentionally your opposition, it just is there. Whether that's the sand traps, the water hazards, the weather, and ultimately your own skill. You're your worst enemy when it comes to golf. So both of them are sports, but they're very, very different, right? So reason why we mention this is that actually we see that football or soccer has a Christian cultural theme. The great controversy between good and evil. As long as you're on the winning team and being a part of it and playing in your role, then you will win too. And since we know Jesus is winning, we want to encourage people to join Christ's team. Golf and Buddhism are similar in some ways. And that is, you're kind of on your own. You're your worst enemy. No one can take responsibility for your winning. You have to take your own responsibility. Also, there's a cycle of life and death and rebirth and repetition. You don't have one life to figure out whether you're going to win or lose. You have many lives. And we just see that these are very much helping us to understand the differences. And so the question is, how do we share the gospel with Buddhists or with golfers?
It's true. You know, often we'll take our evangelism, we'll take our Bible studies, we'll take our methods that we have that work, and we take them to East Asian people with a Buddhist background, and we say, man, I've got good news for you. I'm going to teach you how to play the game. And they say, yeah, awesome, I want to be a better player. And so we call everybody together and we have this big, great, excitement, we're going to do something. And then we turn on our PowerPoint and we turn on our screens, and what do we see? We're showing them football. But they don't play football.
That would be very interesting, wouldn't it? If you're in a golf course, in a golf club, country club, and this recruiter for a football team comes in, or maybe even they say, okay, we're going to have a free training on Monday morning. Most people don't like coming to play golf on Mondays, so if you come early before work, we'll have a training for you. And they throw in a DVD, and what do they show you? How to play football. Like, wait a minute, how does that work, right?
Exactly.
Let's take the golf club and try to hit the football. Does that work? I mean, the football doesn't even fit into the holes. And they'll say stuff like, well, you play on the grass, we play on the grass. You get exercise, we get exercise. You have fun, we have fun. Same, but very different. They're not the same. Yes, they're both trying to make sense of life and offer something better. But the way things work is a world apart.
So then the question is, what do we do? How do we adapt? How do we help? How do we fix this disconnect between what we are trying to show them and tell them and between what they're understanding? Because as we saw before in a previous study that we did, God wants everybody, every people group. He wants everyone to have an opportunity, which means even they should have an opportunity to understand.
That's right. And so it's important for us as we start in wanting to share our love for Jesus with other people is to learn, be learners ourselves. Understanding is essential for success. So let's just think for a minute what God's goal is for mission. We talked about this in the previous section of this training, sizing up our mission and understanding what God's goal is for our mission. And we found that His goal for us is to do what? Okay, yes. We need to reach every people group to do what? Make disciples that are loyal to Him in these last days in which we live. Isn't that right? So, and then we found that God's method is two things. We talked about a bird with two wings, and so we want a balanced approach on how we do mission. And so the two were what, Amy?
The three angels' messages in the gospel, and Isaiah 58, Matthew 25, the works of love, caring and sympathizing.
Yeah, so we want to proclaim the everlasting gospel in the three angels' messages, but we also want to demonstrate and show and love people like Christ loved them. Mm-hmm. So here's the question. How can we be successful if the cultural barriers to understanding the gospel is so profound? The barriers are so clearly there. How are we going to do this? Well, the answer, we must seek to understand first. We need to understand their worldview, assumptions, and their logic pattern. What makes sense to them, how they come at the conclusions about what is true or false. If we understand these things about our Buddhist friends, it will enable us to communicate across the cultural barriers. There's a song that we like to sing, Just As I Am. You know that song? It's a beautiful song. We use it for an appeal. Just come to Christ just as you are. But you know what? Oftentimes in our preaching, we expect people to understand the Bible and understand our worldview and our logic and our culture and beliefs so they can come to Christ. But what I see in the gospel, what Jesus did, is that He left the throne room of heaven. He took on the form of a servant, a created being, a human being. He lived in poor surroundings, right? He didn't live in a rich home. Humbled Himself so that we can understand. That was His whole goal. Mm-hmm. So as missionaries, as Christians who take the name of our Master, we have to do the same thing. We must cross the barrier of worldviews and cultures and know how to communicate within their culture. Then over time, they can form worldviews and logic that is transformed through Scripture. Of course, they will still be their culture, but it takes time. First, we must enter into their culture to help them understand these things. Well, that's what our whole goal is for this section of the series, is to understand. But I think we have a few questions here we want to ask.
Yes, we do. For those of you who are viewing this at home, we invite you to go to our website, cr.globalmissioncenters.org. You can download the workbook that goes with this workshop and answer the questions in your small group. So the questions that we have for today. First one, since Buddhists don't relate to the idea of a substitutionary death, what might attract them to Jesus? We haven't given you enough information yet for you to really know, but we want you to start thinking, what might work? What have you seen in your own experience that has worked or that might work? And number two, evaluate your own ministry. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, evaluate your ministry. Who are the unbelievers in your life right now that you are working to reach? What sport are you promoting? Are you playing football? Are you golfing? Maybe you're doing badminton.
Who knows?
I don't know. But what sport? What are you trying to promote? And how does it relate to their sport? In this case, the sport, of course, is the cultural theme. How does it relate to them? And then think about it. How, if you're sharing this with people, with unbelievers, how's it going? Are they responding or are they becoming confused? We want them to understand. That's the ultimate goal. So I'd like you to take some time, think about these questions, and discuss it with your partner for just a few minutes.
and a better way of living, maybe like health. Permission is yes.